on a sector that doesn't normally get mentioned in the department, but you have it in the context of it's the early years sector as well, and your role within that. Obviously, there is, a newly, well, in the last few years, the Department of Children, but it also falls under the Department of Health, and it falls under your remit as well. And often what people within that sector find is that they fall within three stools. Now, in your action plan on education report as well, in terms of the increased quality of learning in early years, you talk about the Department will support the Department of Children and Youth Affairs to improve the quality of early years provisions. The implementation of Ashton and Shilta, the earliest curriculum and quality frameworks will be supported with training for mentors and trainings and upskilling of the workforce. The recent furore at the budget, when a small amount of money relatively was allocated additionally to the early years sector, just shows the level of ignorance that still exists in this country. And you've got people within this sector championing a programme of education. They were belittled by those who are arguing against that allocation of funds, trying to pigeonhole them as simply childminders. Now, I know that in your high status you would know that those working within the sector are bringing forward a very pioneering level of education within that sector. And I would hope that the department would be an advocate for them. I would hope that the department would even speak about even seeing them come within their remit. Can I ask, though, in terms of that commitment in your action plan of delivering a quality of learning, the majority of people who you are assisting are working on a minimum wage. And I've asked this to the Secretary-General of the Department of Children, who was in here quite a while ago as well. And can I ask, do you think that is acceptable? That the people who are being asked to implement government initiatives are working in terms of the divergence between pay for that sector and, say, primary school teachers?
The funding of the preschool sector and the funding of the capitation model is a matter for the Department of Children. We don't fund that sector. So I'm in my position as Secretary General and Accounting Officer. It's not appropriate for me to give an opinion.
I know.
However, what I would say is what we have had with the government funding commenced with the 1 year and now moved into the 2 years of preschool is really, really, really important for the future of Irish education and has a potential to play a huge role. We have a section embedded, if you like, in the Department of Children, a section of our department which supports in terms of the quality role and the quality provision within the sector. We have a group of inspectors within the Department of Education and Skills funded by the Department of Children doing early years inspections now on a systematic basis for the first time. We have supports, again, led by the Department of Children for children with special education needs, gone into the sector for the first time in the last year, following dialogue with ourselves and the Department of Health. So there is an increasing amount of support and resources going in. Yes, there's a need to change and upskill over time. Yes, of course, that takes investment. And we are working with the Department of Children in that regard. And certainly we hope to see huge changes over time in the effectiveness of education generally as a result of having the 2-year preschool experience in place on a universal basis. And we're really positive about that. And we don't shy away from working with the stakeholders across early years in that regard.
I appreciate that answer, Sean, I really do. But it didn't address my core point in terms of the fact, if you look at what people in that sector is paid and people what as a primary teacher is paid, given the fact that early years education, in terms of those who are pioneering it and championing it, and who have stood outside the Dáil on 2 occasions in the last 12 months, seeking an admission by departments and government in respect of the role that they do. And this is what the point I made in terms of these people falling between stools, because you said it's not a situation for yourself. When I asked the Secretary-General of the Department of Children, he said, well, we're only assisting a sector that is effectively private, yet you're both asking them to implement government policy. And they are both, those people within that sector are working for a minimum wage. And I will continue to raise their concerns because they're the first rung of the education ladder for our young children as well. Finally,